Recording. Yep. Cool. So first of all, welcome to a demo session. This is going to be only a demo session. Okay, this is not the actual session. So I'd like to introduce you how the sessions will be taken going forward if you plan to attend these. And today is all about the discussion on what we cover and what we not cover, and what is it to you, what is it to me. That's it. Okay. So my name is Hari, and I would be the instructor / trainer for this entire sequence of sessions. And I believe most of you guys know each other. But if you are new, if you do not know anybody, don't worry about it. The only rule that we follow in these sessions are whenever you have any question, feel free to block me at any point of time. If you raise a hand, there is an option to raise a hand in Zoom, but it may not be monitored because I might be doing something else in the sessions. So feel free to block me whenever you want to, and make this as interactive as possible. So for example, consider that whatever I'm saying is not truth, right? Whatever the concepts. So try to prove me wrong. What happens in that way? If you try to prove me wrong, you'll have to do some research to prove me wrong, right? So if you do some research, you will be learning something, right? So let's try to make this interactive, and let's try to make everybody learn something out of anything that we discuss. Okay. But then coming back towards the session. So this session will be break down into different parts. So I'm not here to teach you any programming language from scratch and make you an expert in it. This session, I mean, you can always go to YouTube, the tutorials or whatever, and then you can definitely get something out of it, and they will do a far better job, and they're more inlined, aligned, and they have a prepared content, very well prepared curriculum than mine. I'm very sure about that. And there are few tutorials who are dedicated to give people from the beginners to the expert level whatever they want to learn, right? So here we will not be dealing with end basics, intermediate, expert level, blah blah blah. We don't do that. And this is not a course that will teach you any cloud concepts or anything. Okay. So but what we cover here, we cover three different parts. One is a programming language. Again, we don't cover the basics and teaching you the coding or whatever. It's not a regular training where the trainer is expected to handhold the students. Okay. So this is going to be a training where we will be focusing on a few aspects. I'll come to that point in a bit. So programming language is the first part, and cloud platform is the second part. And then real time is the third part. Okay. Yeah, so I just wanted a confirmation from any one of you. Am I audible? Everything is okay so far?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah, you are audible.
Thank you. So now about these three parts, if I'm not going to cover from the basics or what the actual content about these parts, what am I going to cover? So what am I going to cover is, if you're talking about, if we are discussing or interacting about the programming language, let's say we focus on Python because it's having more requirements in the market. What we cover here, so there are two sets of things that we cover. So for example, if you are having an intention to learn about Python data structures, let's say lists. Okay? Lists is some data structure in Python. So I will first provide you some material. Again, for a programming language like Python, the PPTs will be what. Okay. See, if you unmute, it means that you should have a question. But if you unmute and some music pops up and you're talking somewhere else, it gives a bad vibe for others also. So please try to unmute only if you have an atmosphere to unmute, and you can feel free to ping the questions in the chat. I can try to take them up. I have both the windows open, participant list and the chat list. But yeah, so you'll be getting the PPTs. These PPTs will have two different parts again. It will have bullet points, okay, and it will also have IO, input and output. So if I am facing an interview on Python, if the interviewer wants to check your skill set regarding Python lists, right? There is only a few amount of or few number of questions that you can check, that you can ask, okay, in general, maybe some X amount of questions. So we will cover all this in the form of this bullet points and IO, okay. So I'll show you a example. Yeah, I not downloaded that. Okay, cool. These repositories, most of them are public and you can download them if you wish. So you just have to go to Google, press RE180, go to the Python basics repository, and then download whatever you want to download the PPTs. But I'm just trying to show you how the PPTs will look like. Okay, so was it? If you want to expect, if I am the interviewer, let's say, I faced a lot of interviews on Python. And if I am the interviewer, if I want to test on Python lists, for example, I would be covering these concepts. I'll start from here. Okay. So it will contain only the bullet points and the input outputs. You can literally copy this and then paste it in your IDE or the interpreter, the Python executor, and then you can just get the results. You can play around with the things, okay, by changing the inputs and outputs. So it says lists are mutable, and then there are some useful methods. So in the class, we will discuss about what is mutable, what is immutable, and what are these useful methods, okay? And roughly, if you start from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's it. Within 8 slides, you're done with 2 things. First thing is what is expected in the interview. And second thing is what is given in real time usually for lists. Okay. Most of the times in the interviews or in your real-time platform, you'll be dealing only with these attributes. And that is with my observation, and that is the observation of a person who have explored at least 40 plus platforms. Okay. So you can blindly trust this, not because the person who gave you is an expert or whatever. You can trust this because it is working for others. I've been giving this training. I took a break for a few sessions for a few months, around 3 to 4 months or more than that maybe. But before that, I was actually training for more than 4 years. And all these years, these PPTs are doing wonders. I've got good feedback. But then, yeah, so we will also have a cloud platform. We will be covering AWS, and we will also have PPTs on AWS. But to learn AWS today, you will be having 200 plus services. Each service in AWS has a functionality. What is AWS? What is the service? What is this functionality? Let's not go there. Maybe gradually we can enter there. But we have 200 plus services for 200 different use cases. Okay. And we will not give you the PPTs for all these 200 services. No, this is not about AWS. No, this is not about any certification. Now, we will not cover any service in depth. And if you are looking for any of these pointers, in-depth covering of any service or real-time utilities of all the services or the documentation or material for all these services, be our guest, go to Google, go to YouTube, go to Udemy, Udacity, Edureka. They do a far better job than me. They are the best, rely on them. But what we teach today in these sessions is there are around 10 to 15 services for which you'll be getting PPTs. And again, the same thing, interview and real time. That's it. But then, including these PPTs, for Python, you will also have Word documents. Okay. So what is the difference between this Word document and a PPT? So the only difference is this PPT is a concise and precise version of whatever I wanted to tell or talk about the interview in real time, while the Word documents are a detailed description about every topic in detail, which means, for example, if I want to discuss about if and else conditions, I'll be done with 1 or 2 slides in the PPTs, while when you open the Word document, I will explain the flow chart, the flow diagram, the acceptance scenarios, blah, 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 which means the expectations from you, the learning expectations from you is, if you have PPTs and Word documents, you never open the Word documents, never. They are useless for you, completely useless, and you will forget the existence of Word documents. You will rely only on PPTs. But then why am I giving you the Word documents? Only in the exception scenario where let's say somebody attended the sessions, they were busy with something else, they forgot everything, they took a gap of 3 months or so, and they really don't know anything about anything, whatever they have discussed in the session. They will be having the recordings, obviously, since we will be sharing the recordings, and they will be having these Word documents. So they will have to start their journey with these Word documents so that there will be a detailed description, and then they might recall the concepts that we discussed in sessions. Okay. So that was the expectations from these Word documents. And you will also have small tasks. Okay. So these small tasks can either be pushed to you using Google Doc links or GitHub tasks, right? Allow recording. So Pavan, you don't have to request for recording. It is already being recorded to the cloud. I'll be sharing this recording at the end of the session. So again, just a pointer, if you're facing any issues with my speed of words or anything, just let me know.
Hello.
Yeah, cool. So I'll just correct myself, but I just see, I'm very sure that I may not be matching your frequency or everybody's frequency. If I am matching, then there's definitely something wrong. Okay. So everybody thinks their own way, everybody receives in their own frequency, in their own velocity levels. So just let me know. If I am in the audience and if I'm not understanding, I'll just put a message, hey, I am not understanding what you're saying. As simple as that. You have every right to do that. So I'll have to repeat n number of times in n different ways to make sure I match your expectations. Otherwise, there's no point in you being in the session and in me taking the session for you, right? So let's try to suck whatever we can from the trainer. Let's try to be more interactive, and that is only good for you, right? Cool. So the PPTs are there for the cloud environment too, and we'll be focusing majorly on the AWS. I'll also tell you the reason why in a bit. But yeah, so these are the documents that you'll be getting, and there will be another document. Actually, two more documents. So anonymous feedback form will be one, because no matter how much I force you or I compel you, I've seen a very minimal response for few candidates, from few candidates actually. So from few batches, that too. So few batches are very interactive, they're responsive, but there will be a sense from various people. So am I disturbing the class if I ask too many questions? What other people think about it? My answer to them is, if you give a damn about others, you will lose your time, you will lose what you are about to get, right? So for such cases, I push this feedback form. So a very simple questions, right? So I'll be using the same old feedback form, feedback on the session trainer, and any improvements you might think of, and the timings or anything else. So these are the responses we got. Typically, most probably all are positive responses, but there are few negative responses too. I'm just waiting for it. Just a second. I mean, I just wanted to show you something negative so that it will make more sense about this, the objective of this. Yeah, see, if you see this as too fast, uh, I would definitely have to gear down, and I will have to make sure I'm meeting your expectations, right? So that's the whole point. So you can send this anonymous feedback n number of times, which means I would not know who is sending this feedback, and I would expect you to send it for every session, okay, if possible. And try to add negative comments, whatever you feel, so that it makes more sense. The objective of this feedback form, I repeat, the objective of this feedback form is not to praise me, not so that yeah, I'm getting more prizes, that's what I need. It is not that. So it makes more sense, and it will be justified only and only if I see something bad or negative, so that it makes more sense and it justifies its objective. Okay, so this will one thing you will be getting at the end of the training session. And then you will also have another sheet. Sorry, yeah, you'll be having the recordings, the next thing. Okay, so usually I maintain a sheet for recordings, but yeah, I'm right now in a confusion. I'm not very sure. It would either be Zoom recordings, or it would it could also be a YouTube live session. So I have to still figure out what it is going to be. Okay, and maybe I'll take a day or two, and I'll set up the things for the same. And then uh, again, if the batch seems to be interactive, it makes more sense to do YouTube interactive sessions, so that the video will be aired forever, and we can also discuss in the comments, and then we have a healthy discussion. If not, we might have to roll back to the Zoom video. So I'm just trying it out for the first time. All right. So that's about that. And in the real time, again, most of the times we will only have the tasks. Okay. So for example, we discuss about AWS Glue. Let's say it's one of the AWS services intended to do something, but it has got a fancy name. So I will not be creating a Glue job. Usually, if a trainer is going to teach you about how AWS Glue, or let's say Lambda, AWS Lambda works, a trainer will be creating a Lambda function. He'll be exploring all the properties and use cases and whatnot. When I usually take the normal trainings for the folks right back in India a couple of years ago. So I take literally 3 to 4 sessions just to cover the Lambda functions. But here we'll be done within one session. So we will touch base what is expected to be touch based. As simple as that. So a simple example, Lambda has certain properties called timeout, memory, permissions, handler, right? And runtime, let's say. I'll be covering all these properties, but what will not cover is dedicated concurrency, default or reserved concurrency, state machine, X-ray integration. All these concepts are, you can expect these to be expected in 1 or 2% of the interviews that you attend. So not our plate, not worth feeding it, right? So it's like this session is intended to feed you with the things that you are expected to face in the interviews, or mostly whenever you are into the real-time environment, you will be working with these. So if you have a critical project that is based on only Lambda, on edge case scenarios is where you'll be dealing with these properties. Okay, so it will be a light session. Do not expect me to do much of the work. I'm here just to spend my time and give you what you have to do, right? I'll just be a fuel for your journey. So these sessions are focused only on these two parts. Okay, in the real time, I'll just directly give you the configuration, your recent project, and how the platform looks like, and the table names, object names, the naming standards, and the business use case functionality and whatnot. Okay, yeah, so remembered one more thing. So you'll be having a running notes, right? So this running notes will be prepared while the session is going on, which means you don't have to worry about taking a notes of all these events or the discussions or the points. So let's say I'll talk about a ton of points, but if only 10 points make sense in those ton of points, I will be pointing or noting that down in my running notes, and this is considered as running notes. Okay, whatever you're seeing on the screen, the sheet, right? So you don't have to worry about taking a notes, which means you don't have to waste time. So what happens is you take the notes while the session is going on and you miss the current point. I don't want that to happen, so that is taken care for you. So what you get out of the sessions, these are the things that you get out of the sessions, and they're focused on what? They're focused on this. Okay, so you'll get these focused on this, and if you prepare well or do the tasks, I'm sure at least you will not get disappointed about these sessions. Okay, and while you're doing this tasks again, I will not be able to track the tasks. Let's say I give you 10 tasks. Tomorrow I'll give you another 10 tasks. That's it. My responsibility will be done when you get the task, when you receive the task. But my responsibility also will start when I hear back from you about the tasks. So if you have a question, I'm sorry, I'm helpless unless you ask. Okay, unless you ask, you can ask in front of everybody, you can ask personally. If you ask personally, I cannot guarantee you when I can get back, but if you ask in front of everybody, I'll be cornered, I'll have to answer you, only then I'll be moving ahead with the others or with other stuff, right? So it's totally up to you, and try to make sure you do the tasks that would be only beneficial for you. Cool. And yeah, that's how the sessions will run around. But we start these sessions at the programming level stage, and in the initial few sessions, at a particular checkpoint, I have a checkpoint on how much we need to discuss about Python. So let's say until you get to know about Python functions, right? We will be teaching full-fledged Python. It might take, for a few sessions, for a few batches, actually, it took around 5 sessions. For a few batches, it took around 10 sessions. For a few batches, it took more than 10 sessions. So it really depends on how responsive the people are and how interactive we are and how fast we are going on these concepts. But once we touch these concepts, right? Once I am good with this, once I understand or feel like you are good with Python functions, there I will split the batch into two different parts again. The first half of the session will be still Python running, and in parallel, we'll start with cloud engineering concepts, that is AWS. So we will be connecting the dots. Sorry, we will be connecting the dots between the Python as a programming language with the AWS services in parallel. So for example, you learned about the Python functions. Now you have the capability to understand what a handler does in Lambda. And we'll be connecting the dots like that. And after a few days, I will be calling it as done for Python as a programming language. And then we will still have a breakdown of the sessions. The first half of the session will move towards the public cloud environment, that is AWS. And the second half of the session will be starting at real-time discussion. We will be trying to focus on data engineering, because most of the people here will be willing to focus on data engineering, is what I heard. So if there is any change, we can always discuss. You always have this feedback form with you. I am going to share this. So utilize it as a tool. And okay, I'm not collecting the email addresses. So utilize it as a tool and send your responses. For example, if you did not want any data engineering batch at all, let's say, I do not want it, I want something else, right? So you can feel free to call it out, and we will try to revisit this feedback form every session. If I miss out, it's your responsibility to at least make me remember about it, right? So that we can go ahead and revisit the responses from everybody. Okay, so I'm adding this link in the Zoom chat. You can collect it from the chat, and I'm adding this document also in the Zoom chat. This will be your running notes. make it public and copying the link. Yeah. Uh, I'd be sharing the same link in the WhatsApp group as well, just for reference. I hope you'll be having a good time around with these sessions. Now, yeah, this is pretty much what I wanted to discuss for this particular demo session. But I'd like to take a pause here and open for questions. And if you have any other questions so far, whatever we discussed, feel free to ask.
Would these sessions would be on every day, starting from any particular date?
Starting from any particular date, yes, I need to figure that out. It could either be tomorrow or the day after. Like I said, I just need to figure out the platform. Every time I'll be doing Zoom, right? So maybe it could be a different thing right now. So just give me a couple of days. But once we start the sessions, it will be every day, and it will be only on weekdays. Sorry, weekends there will not be any sessions.
Okay.
And the timings I'm bidding for is 9 p.m. CST. If you have any issues, you can let me know about it. And that will be 1 hour long sessions.
I'm good with the time, no problem.
Cool. Any other questions, guys?
We'll be notified for the start date, right?
Yeah, obviously, without notification, I
Yeah,
would. Yeah, so I'll make sure about that.
and also about the platform.
Yep, instructions, link, everything, whatever you need will be given.
Yep. Thank you.
I have a question. So, do we need to have any basics to be learned before joining, like mandatory basics?
Nah, all you gotta give me for these sessions is your time. That's it. No basics.
Yeah, because I don't have any knowledge on Python. So is I directly helpful for this course, or do we need to learn any concepts to before joining this session?
Having knowledge on Python will make it a bit tough. So if you do not have any knowledge on Python, it makes everybody's life easier for these sessions, because whatever I say is Python for you, and you can directly blame me if I'm telling wrong. And if you know Python, well and good enough. You can always validate, but most of the people attend these sessions are with zero knowledge, so you're good there.
Oh, okay, sure.
Hey, Harry.
And
Hey, Harry. I understand that the meetings are being recorded. Will we be provided with the recording links later on?
Yeah, so again, it's part of it, but I always say that I will not give the recordings, because what happens is, if I give the recordings, if I am a participant, and if I'm getting the recordings, I would not pay attention to these classes or sessions.
Okay.
So try to ignore the fact that you are being provided with recordings. But yeah, I'll make a decision and then I'll tell about if we have to give the recordings or not. Maybe I'll
Yep.
just let you know in the first session.
Okay, fair enough.
But this
Thanks.
demo session will be shared.
Okay.
Any
I guess I was
application
coming
that-
from a point where, like, if someone misses out of the class, maybe like before the next
Yes.
class, they can catch up on that.
That's the whole point of recording, actually speaking. So that,
Okay.
that can be shared for the people who missed.
Perfect. Thanks.
Hari, any applications that need to be downloaded in advance before we start our class?
No. Yeah, again, so you don't even need to have any Python installation also, because if you have a Python installation, let's say, you will not know how to install Python or how not to install Python. The options included in it, right? So the installation itself is a discussion in itself. So you don't need anything to be handy or ready. So while I am doing the installation, you can follow my steps. You can do the same in your machine. You have every right to block me till you are done with your installation, and then we will go incrementally from there.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
No problem.
hi, Hari. Is it possible to do morning session or only the night session, or evening session only?
Depends on the time zone. What do you mean by morning and evening? Is it Central Time Zone, EST?
Yeah, CST 9 p.m. right now. So, but is it possible the morning session?
I don't think it is possible, but yeah, right now these sessions will only be at the evening CST hours.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool. So does this sound good? Is it really meaningful to you, or is it justifying, or are you looking for something else about whatever the parts that you're discussing? You can feel free to engage. Otherwise, I think we're good to have this demo ended. I just wanted to focus on what I am going to teach and what I'm not going to teach, and what your expectations should be. But yeah, if you have any questions on the technical things, right? I mean, you don't need to even, I did not teach any technical concepts here. I told you whatever I am going to touch base and what difference it makes when you compare it with the regular training. So if you have any questions on that part, just feel free to discuss here. If you feel anything is missing, you can call it out.
Question.
Yep.
How did you learn Python?
That's interesting question. That's how you are seeing these PPTs. So I learned Python in a very weird way. I'll just try to finish that story in 2 minutes. So I was dead scared about job market. I know nothing about programming. I was actually dealing with Informatica Power Center and SQL, copy paste and stuff. I tried few jobs. I did not get any jobs. So I updated my profile as a Python trainer, and I know nothing about Python. And then I got an opportunity with a very startup company. So they offered something. I was actually working at MNC at that time. It's an on-campus placement. I was actually a fresher at that time. So I went to them. I know that the interview will be gone, and it's just a time pass for me. So I went there, but to my surprise, that guy is a HR, whoever called me. And the team is a team of .NET developers, 22 people. I need to train them on Python. That is the use case. So whatever I say is Python for him, because I got good communication and it's in so I was scared to ruin the life of others. So I tried to research YouTube videos, but I'm not satisfied because the trainer in YouTube will know only around 60 to 70% of the concepts. And when I get to know from him, I will be knowing only 40 to 30% of the concepts. So I directly went to the documentation. I did not leave any point. I prepared all these PPTs and Word documents. So one day I will prepare the PPT and I'll present it the next day to them. The reason why you see the input outputs right here, I know the coding at that time. So the only cover up I can do is I'll teach something and I'll copy this and then paste it in the output and see the output comes. It will not mess up. So that's how you see all these PPTs for all the concepts, and it worked out well. I got to understand while I'm teaching, and then gave the interviews, and I lost around 30 to 40 interviews. And then I started cracking all the interviews because every interview has almost the same concepts. First interview, I could not answer any question. They asked me around 20 to 30 questions. For the next interview, I made sure all the answers for those 20 questions are there in my plate. I buctified everything. And whatever the new question they ask, no, I did not work on this. I worked on these concepts, the 20, whatever I learned. And then they rejected me. So after like that, there are few interviews that I did not clear. But then after that, with 2.5 years experience, it was Herman company. He told, like, I never saw a person who is this pro in Python and having 2 years of experience. How did you learn all these concepts? The fact is, I never learned, I never used it. It's all interview experience.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good to know. Thanks.
No problem. Okay. So do you have any questions on this? The 3 parts. Are you good with this? Cool. I take it as yes. If you don't have any questions, feel free to drop off. If you have any questions, feel free to stick around. I'll be there until everybody drops off. And I really appreciate you being in this call today. Thank you so much for your interest and accommodating your time. I will meet you very soon with an updated link, updated platform. And mostly it will be 9 p.m. CST. So thanks again. Have a good one. If you don't have any questions, feel free to drop off, please.
What's the notebook of your choice? Is it Jupyter or like?
My notebook of choice for you is Vim Editor, but
Okay.
my personal preference is also Vim Editor. There's a reason, because if you are using a Vim Editor like a pro, people will fear you. As simple as that.
Okay. And then are we going to be doing any virtual environment stuff with Python?
Yep,
Okay.
we will discuss in detail about virtual environment. We will talk about PyEnv, VEnv, Conda environment.
Conda, yeah, okay. Yeah, Conda, mini Conda, like we'll cover all those as well.
No,
I
we
hope.
will cover only the 3 types of virtual environments. Those are enough for us.
Got
So
it.
Conda,
Okay.
PyEnv, and VEnv, virtual env.
Okay. Sounds good.
But again,
I
have any
joined.
follow-up questions on those other virtual environments? You can always bring it up in the sessions and we can cover those.
Okay. And I joined the call late. I didn't catch your name. I'm sorry.
Oh, my name is Hari.
Hari. Okay. All right. Thanks, Hari. That's all the questions I have. Chetan here. Looking forward to to the actual sessions.
That's awesome. I will share this recording. I hope you are part of the WhatsApp group, right?
Yes, I am.
You can go through that at your free time.
Perfect. Thanks. Good night.
Good night.